These guys are still ridiculously wealthy. They're not exactly starving. They have all the material comforts one could dream of. Lavish homes, gourmet food, and every conceivable luxury at their fingertips. Hey everybody! Welcome back to another episode where we dive deep into the lives of the rich and powerful. Tonight we're talking about Russia's super rich, the oligarchs. These are the individuals who have amassed unimaginable wealth and power, often through their close ties with the Kremlin. These guys have more money than God. We're talking about billions of dollars, private jets, sprawling estates, and luxury yachts that most of us can only dream of, and worse taste in interior design. Despite their immense wealth, their homes often look like a mishmash of gold, glitter, and gaudiness. It's as if they believe that more is always better, even when it comes to decor. But lately their lives have gotten a lot less fabulous. The world has changed, and so has their fortune. The lavish parties, the extravagant vacations, and the endless shopping sprees have come to a screeching halt. Why? Because the world decided their yachts weren't welcome anymore. International sanctions have hit them hard, and their prized possessions are being seized left and right. See, being buddy-buddy with Putin was great for business. Until it wasn't. Their close relationship with the Russian president once opened doors and created opportunities, but now it's a liability. Now, their assets are frozen, their travel is restricted. They can't access their money, their jets are grounded, and their luxury cars are gathering dust in storage. They're stuck in a gilded cage of their own making. Their wealth, which once gave them freedom, has now become their prison. A luxury gulag, if you will. They have all the trappings of wealth, but none of the freedom that usually comes with it. It's enough to make you almost feel sorry for them. Almost. They have everything they could ever want, but they're more trapped than ever before. Don't worry, we'll be right back. Stay tuned as we explore more about the rise and fall of these oligarchs and what the future holds for them. So how did these guys get so rich in the first place? What was the secret behind their sudden wealth and influence? Short answer, the 1990s in Russia. It was a period of immense transformation and upheaval, total free-for-all. Imagine a going out of business sale, but on a national scale. The entire economy was in flux, except the business is a crumbling superpower. The Soviet Union had just collapsed, leaving behind a power vacuum and a struggling economy. And everything's up for grabs: oil, gas, metals, even entire industries. The state-owned assets were being sold off at rock-bottom prices. Enterprising young men with connections, and let's be honest, it was mostly men, saw an opportunity. They were quick to act, leveraging their networks and sometimes bending the rules. They snapped up these assets for pennies on the ruble. It was a buyer's market, and they had the means and the audacity to take full advantage. And just like that, they became oligarchs. Overnight. Their newfound wealth allowed them to live lives of unimaginable luxury. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds kinda shady. And you'd be right, many of these deals were conducted in the shadows, away from public scrutiny. It was a time of chaos, corruption, and questionable privatization schemes. The rules were being written and rewritten on the fly. But hey, that's capitalism, baby, right? The free market was in full swing, and those who could navigate its treacherous waters reaped the rewards. The fall of the Berlin Wall and the subsequent collapse of the Soviet Union marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. The old order was gone, and a new world was emerging. The political landscape was just as volatile as the economic one. Power struggles and protests were common as the country tried to find its footing. Privatization was the buzzword of the day. The government was eager to transition to a market economy, but the process was anything but smooth. While a few were getting fabulously rich, many ordinary Russians were struggling. The social safety nets of the Soviet era were gone, and the new system was still finding its way. Small businesses popped up everywhere, trying to survive in this new, unpredictable environment. It was a time of great opportunity, but also great risk. Amidst the chaos, a new generation of entrepreneurs began to emerge. They were tech-savvy, ambitious, and ready to take on the world. International investors also took notice. The Russian market, with its vast resources and untapped potential, was too tempting to ignore. Rapid urban development followed. Cities began to transform, with new buildings and infrastructure projects springing up seemingly overnight. There was also a cultural revival. Art, music, and literature flourished as people sought to express themselves in this new era of freedom. Even the space program saw a resurgence. Scientific advancements continued, showcasing the country's enduring talent and ambition. Despite the challenges, life went on. Families enjoyed time in parks, children played, and people adapted to their new reality. Through it all, the iconic landmarks and symbols of Russian heritage stood as reminders of the past and beacons for the future. The Wild West of the 1990s was a time of great change and uncertainty, but also of hope and possibility. It was a defining moment in Russia's history, shaping the country in ways that are still felt today. Becoming an oligarch wasn't just about being in the right place at the right time. It was about who you knew. And these guys, they knew Vladimir Putin. They provided the financial backing he needed to consolidate power. In return, Putin provided protection and access to even more resources. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, for a while. But here's the thing about making deals with autocrats. There's always a catch. Let's talk about Roman Abramovich. You might know him as the owner of the Chelsea Football Club. Or, that guy with the $600 million yacht that has its own submarine. Talk about first world problems. Abramovich made his fortune in oil and aluminum. He was tight with Putin, like, really tight. But when the sanctions hit, Abramovich suddenly became persona non grata in the West. He had to sell his beloved Chelsea. And let's just say, parking a super yacht these days, not so easy. Section 5, Alisher Usmanov, once a top dog, now feeling the bite. Another oligarch feeling the heat is Alisher Usmanov. This guy had it all: mining, metals, tech investments, even a piece of Facebook. He was living the high life, multiple mansions, private jets, the whole 9 yards. Then came the sanctions. His assets were frozen, his movements restricted. Suddenly, that sprawling estate in Italy? Not so fun when you can't leave the house. It's enough to make you want to start a podcast. Oh wait, he already did that. Section 6, Luxury Gulag, an oxymoron for our times. So, yeah, Luxury Gulag. It's a term that seems almost laughable at first glance, doesn't it? The juxtaposition of luxury and gulag is enough to make anyone do a double-take. It's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? The idea that someone could be imprisoned in luxury seems absurd. But when you dig deeper, it starts to make a strange kind of sense. I mean, these guys are still ridiculously wealthy. They're not exactly starving. They have all the material comforts one could dream of. Lavish homes, gourmet food, and every conceivable luxury at their fingertips. But their world is shrunk. Their freedom, gone. They can't travel freely. Their assets are frozen, and their social circles have become limited. It's a gilded cage, but a cage nonetheless. They're trapped in a gilded cage of their own making. The very wealth that once gave them freedom now serves as their prison bars. It's a paradox that highlights the complexities of modern sanctions. And here's the thing, they're not the only ones suffering. The sanctions aimed at these oligarchs are having far-reaching consequences. The sanctions are having a ripple effect throughout the Russian economy. High-end stores are empty, luxury brands are seeing a decline in sales, and the overall economic atmosphere is one of uncertainty. Ordinary Russians are feeling the pinch. Prices are rising, goods are becoming scarce, and the average citizen is struggling to make ends meet. The economic strain is palpable. But hey, at least they don't have to worry about maintaining a super yacht, right? The irony is thick. While the oligarchs fret over their grounded jets and docked yachts, the common people are just trying to get by. It's a stark contrast. On one hand, you have the ultra-wealthy dealing with the inconvenience of sanctions. On the other, you have ordinary families grappling with real hardships. The disparity is glaring. The working class is bearing the brunt of these economic policies. Factories are closing, jobs are being lost, and public services are under strain. It's a tough situation for everyone involved. The luxury sector is particularly hard hit. Car dealerships, high-end restaurants, and luxury hotels are all feeling the impact. The trickle-down effect is real, and it's affecting more than just the oligarchs. Even in the countryside, the effects are being felt. Small villages and rural areas are not immune to the economic downturn. The entire nation is interconnected, and the ripples of sanctions are far-reaching. The political landscape is also shifting. Protests are becoming more common, and the public's dissatisfaction is growing. The government is under pressure to find solutions, but the path forward is uncertain. In the heart of Moscow, the tension is palpable. The city that once symbolized wealth and power is now a microcosm of the nation's struggles. The future is uncertain, and everyone is feeling the weight of these challenging times. Section 7. Beyond bling, the human cost of sanctions. It's easy to get caught up in the schadenfreude of it all. These oligarchs with their obscene wealth and questionable morals are finally getting their comeuppance. But we can't forget about the human cost of these sanctions. Ordinary Russians are losing their jobs, their savings, their livelihoods. The price of basic goods is skyrocketing. And for what? Because a few dozen billionaires got too cozy with a dictator? Section 8. A future uncertain. What happens when the music stops? So what's next for these oligarchs? Will they try to ride out the storm, hoping for a change in political winds? Will they try to distance themselves from Putin and salvage what's left of their fortunes? Or will they find themselves facing even tougher sanctions, their assets seized, their movements even more restricted? One thing's for sure, the party's over. The era of the oligarchs, at least as we know it, is coming to an end. Section 9. The moral of the story. Be careful what you wish for, and where you get your money. Look, I'm not saying we should feel sorry for these guys. They made their beds, now they have to lie in them. But their story is a cautionary tale. A reminder that wealth and power, especially when acquired through questionable means, can be fleeting. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to rethink a system that allows such obscene inequality to flourish in the first place. That's our show. We'll be right back.